Shalom. This week, our Torah portion is Parashat Shmini, meaning the eighth. Beginning in Leviticus chapter 9, the portion opens on the scene of the eighth and final day of the inauguration ceremony of the tabernacle, which took place on Rosh Chodesh, the first day of the month of Nisan. This day marked the beginning of a whole new era in God's relationship with man. The building of the tabernacle and the welcoming of God's presence into the world was itself the fulfillment of God's goal in the creation of the world. Ever since the banishment of Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden, God himself was waiting for this moment of reconciliation. And now, the intensely felt joy was so cosmic that the very heavens and the earth resonated with it. As Psalm 96 declares, "Let the heavens rejoice and the earth be glad." And it was on this day, at the inauguration ceremony, as the Kohanim wore their sacred garments for the first time and pronounced the words of the priestly blessing over the people for the first time, it was on this day that the entire nation witnessed the glory of the Shekhinah, God's divine presence among them, which became manifest reality before their eyes. With a few simple words, verse 24 describes a glimpse of eternity. A fire went forth from before Hashem and consumed upon the altar the burnt offering and the fats. All the people saw and sang glad song and fell upon their faces. All the people were so profoundly affected, so totally transfigured by what they saw, meaning the truth of Hashem's all-encompassing oneness, that they perceived on this spiritual level. So they sang glad song and fell upon their faces. It was this feeling of exaltation, inspired by the reality of the presence of the living God among them, that led to one of the most difficult recorded incidences of all Torah, the tragic and untimely death of Aaron's sons, the righteous Nadav and Avihu. Torah's actual description of the episode is sparse, sparing. The sons of Aaron, Nadav and Avihu, each took his fire pan. They put fire in them and placed incense upon it, and they brought before Hashem an alien fire that he had not commanded them. A fire came forth from before Hashem and consumed them, and they died before Hashem. We know that Nadav and Avihu were so moved by the indwelling of God's presence, and they wanted to add their own contribution, motivated by love, to the manifestation of God's love. And they didn't want to miss a thing. They didn't want the moment of tangible closeness to ever end. But they erred in their understanding. There's no question in our minds that we can only experience Hashem through the channels which he himself authorizes and commands. We all know that. Still, it's all so difficult to understand, and so much has been written about their intent and their motivation, and so much has been taught about what we can learn from their actions and their deaths. And that's practically always what we talk about when we talk about Parashat Shmini. But today, it's not their deaths that I want to dwell upon. The story conveys other eternal and universal lessons for us as well. So open up your heart and just let's back up and focus on the scene itself, on the eighth day, on the transfiguring moment of utter joy that Nadav and Avihu were part of, the moment when all the people heard the music of the universe and they joined in, when they sang glad song and fell upon their faces. So open up your heart. What is the secret of this glad song? The Hebrew of our verse 24 of chapter 9, reads, Vayaronu, and they sang, Vayiplu al pnehem, and they fell upon their faces. Vayaronu is related to Rina, song, and it's usually translated as rejoicing or singing or even crying out. But there are numerous other words that mean song. The word Vayaronu refers not just to any song, it's a concept of raising the voice in praise on a completely different level of consciousness. As the renowned scholar Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan of blessed memory points out in his classic work, Meditation in the Bible, the root of the word, ranan, refers to strong feelings of emotion and ecstasy, expressed verbally and accompanied by what he calls a powerful explosion of emotion, as in Isaiah 54, break out in ecstasy and be joyful. I love how the great Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch of blessed memory skillfully translates our verse as, the people saw it, they jubilated and fell upon their faces. To jubilate meaning to show or feel great joy, to rejoice, to exult. As they witnessed the divine presence manifest as fire that descended from heaven and consumed the offerings, as the people jubilated, they also expressed the great joy that they were experiencing by falling on their faces. Please note that this is the only instance in all of Tanakh in which the entire nation falls upon their faces. We need to understand what this really means, this falling on the face. It implies so much more than simply bowing down as an act of reverence or even full prostration of the body as an expression of awe. So open up your heart in the deepest way. And they fell on their faces indicates an aspect of absolute and total nullification of the self. See, bowing down, an act of bending the upper part of the body, emphasizes the devotion of the heart. Full prostration, bringing the body all the way down so that the head also touches the ground, expresses subservience of the mind. But falling upon the face is the willful implosion of the total self, the negation of one's entire being, falling into Hashem. This falling on the face is the perfect complement to the ra'anan, the jubilation, the exaltation expressed by the glad song, an expression of a powerful emotion of joy. As in Zephaniah 3:14, "Sing forth, O daughter of Zion, be glad and rejoice with all your heart." Indeed, Rabbi Kaplan translates our verse as, "There came forth a fire from before God, and when all the people saw it, they became ecstatic, and they fell on their faces." He elucidates how this verse demonstrates that this root word, ranan, can relate to a vision of God. He cites Psalms 33 verse 1 as an even clearer example, translating it as, "Let the righteous be ecstatic in God." And the Midrash comments that this verse does not say that the righteous should be ecstatic to God, but in God, referring to an ecstasy resulting from seeing a vision of God. Maimonides writes that through the proper channeling of the explosive emotions, the soul can break free to commune with God. He teaches that the individual's heart overflows with love as a result of his contemplation on God, perhaps as best expressed by King David in Psalms 84:3. "My soul yearns, it pines for the courts of God. My heart and flesh become ecstatic, you run anew to the living God." Regarding the death of the righteous Nadav and Avihu, Moshe told Aaron, "Of this did Hashem speak, saying, I will be sanctified through those who are nearest to me. Thus I will be honored before the entire people." Everybody knows that from the death of these two holy men, we learn a lot about proper boundaries in the service of God. We learn about how not to approach Hashem. But if you open up your heart, we can also learn through our deeper understanding of what they, together with the entire nation, what they saw and what they felt, we can also learn how we can aspire towards coming closer to Hashem within the limitations of our own level through proper development and channeling of our own explosive emotions of joy. This understanding of the idea of vayaronu, and they sang glad song, is absolutely revelatory. It opens our eyes to new levels of meaning all throughout the Bible whenever a form of this word is used in this context, such as in Psalms 100. "Serve Hashem with gladness, come before him with joyous song." Psalm 33, "Sing joyfully, O righteous, because of Hashem." So now, open up your heart deeper than ever before in your life. There is another perspective, another dimension that beckons to us in numerous verses that features this concept of Ra'anan, the glad song that bursts forth in a powerful emotion of joy from perceiving a vision of Hashem. And what is that perspective? It is a prophetic vision of the future, and it includes the nations. Zechariah chapter 2 declares, "Sing and be glad, O daughter of Zion, for behold, I am coming and I will dwell in your midst," the word of Hashem. "Many nations will join themselves to Hashem on that day, and they will become a people unto me, and I will dwell in your midst. And the nations themselves will also sing in this manner." As Psalm 67 tells us, "Regimes will be glad and sing for joy because you will judge the peoples fairly." In fact, all of creation will sing as one, as Psalms 98 foretells. "Mountains will exult together before Hashem," and Isaiah 55:12, "For in gladness shall you go out, and peace shall you arrive. The mountains and hills will break out in glad song before you, and all the trees of the field will clap hands." And open up your heart in the deepest, 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 deepest way. Not only will Israel and the nations and all of creation sing glad song, but in the greatest revelation of exaltation of all, in the greatest vision, the greatest vindication of Hashem's oneness, Isaiah in chapter 26 jubilates with these words, "May your dead come to life. May my corpses arise. Awake and shout for joy, you who rest in the dust." In the future, together with the resurrection of the dead, all of creation, together as one, will perceive this vision of Hashem, and together will shout for joy. Shalom. Thank you for watching, and thank you for your support, which helps make these videos a reality. Shabbat Shalom from Jerusalem Lights.